Welcome along to Betting Weekly Premier League Show. You're with Dan Roebuck alongside me, Nigel Seeley and Jack Wright. Nigel, bit of a slow deadline day, I thought, this week. Not too much to report. I mean, we've talked about it year in, year out. I mean, bettors have got to take note of these things, but aside from Manchester City, there wasn't that many big transfer fees in. What did you make of it all? Anything you've taken note of?
Good evening to you all. Bit of a strange time tonight. I just thought that it's like it is every year. It's probably the most disappointing day, apart from my wedding day, my first wedding day.
First one.
It's like one of the most anticlimax days of the season. The old deadline day. I mean, it's always hyped up. There's always moves going on. Everyone's saying this is happening. He's going there. Reporters go to the ground and nothing really happens. I mean, I always knew a friend of mine worked for Arsenal who was a commercial director at Arsenal. When Arsene Wenger was there, he used to say, you can have the transfer deadline day off because he didn't do anything. And I think it's a massive overhyped day.
Jack, surprised at the lack of business or, as Nigel suggested, has the sort of January window become a little bit of a dead situation? I mean, you know, sort of West Ham busy, Palace, Villa, Bournemouth to a certain extent.
Yeah, greetings everyone. I think everyone's identified now that the January window is just not the one to really be doing the business unless you've got something really crucial to sort out. You know, if there's injuries, we saw City bringing Gahey, and they weren't planning to bring Gahey in, were they? Obviously, the injuries, etc., have led them down that path, and they've got a great signing, to be fair. But you know, the standard rule of thumb is that you overspend. And like these clubs plan windows well in advance, or they should be, and most of the successful ones do, of course. So, you know, we're seeing that with Liverpool already getting their first signing for the summer window in. So, yeah, look, it's tough to do business, and we've seen it. You know, like a couple of deals fall through at the last minute, and then a domino effect means that two or three others are put out as well. So, yeah, not easy to do it, and I think most teams are pretty settled.
Yeah, not too much to report from a betting point of view, I don't think. Big betting game of the weekend, though. A lot of handle, Liverpool versus Manchester City. This is Sunday afternoon UK, 11:30 Eastern. Liverpool plus 130, Manchester City plus 188. Look, Nigel, from a title point of view, City are plus 450 to win the title here. They could kick off at Anfield, probably will kick off at Anfield, 9 points behind Arsenal. It is huge for Pep Guardiola's side. We've just seen them beat Newcastle in the second leg of the League Cup semi-final here. I mean, Liverpool are favourites here. They're on a good run. Do the prices look right? What are your thoughts on this game? And indeed, the fact that City really have got to go for this, haven't they?
Yeah, and I do expect them to go for it. They've got to win it. I think they're all but out of the title race anyway. But I think a defeat here will certainly see them out of the title race. Liverpool on the same side have got to go for it as well because they've got to make Champions League football. And I think for the first time in many years, these were the top two teams in the English Premier League. And it was always quite a cagey affair because the two of them are battling for the title. The two of them are battling for major honours all around in other domestic competitions as well. And they were sort of looked at matches there where, well, draw wasn't a bad result and, pick up points from the home match, not so much in the away match. And they've always been close. They've always been, in tight. I mean, you're looking at the last 5 matches, none of them have ever seen more than 3 goals. But I think this one will go the other way. I think because it's the last chance saloon for both of these sides, I think they might have a go at it. I just saw that Man City game there, and the Man City looked great going forward. Haaland come on as the second half sub. He was obviously rested for that match. Rodri was a second half sub as well, so he was rested for that match. But they created a lot more chances than the 3 goals they scored. Haaland had 2 or 3 good chances when he come on, but they gave up so many chances as well. They play a very high line and get caught by the run from deep, and I think that Salah could get behind this. Ekitike could run them ragged here, and I think this might be a very high scoring game. If you look at Liverpool's last few home matches in all competitions, 4-1 against Newcastle, 6-0 against Qarabağ, 4-1 in the Cup as well. I know they're lesser opposition, but I do feel here that both teams will give it a go, and I think this will be quite a high scoring match. We know that both sides' strengths are in attack. We know both sides' strengths, the weaknesses are in defence. Obviously, Man City have strengthened that up, but that is a fair point to say. If you look at 2.5 goals, it's minus 175. The over, both teams to score is minus 210. And I think here for me, I'd have to go over 3. No Doku, I think, is a bit of a blow for Manchester City. It's a big miss for them. But I do think this could be different to what we've seen over recent years. I think it's a do or die for both sides. I think it's also very important for Arne Slot as well, for his managerial position. And I think we might see a very entertaining match. So My first official play, of not many official plays this week, but it's 1U over 3 goals against the trend of unders, because these two teams aren't the top 2 in the land anymore.
Yeah, and I think the takeaway, as Nigel rightly points out here, Jack, is the fact that offensively, these two teams are sound and they've got their big hitters aside from Doku on the pitch. But defensively, Diaz might come back. Guardiola's still out. Gay couldn't play midweek, but will come back. There's question marks about the Liverpool defence. Szoboszlai could play right back again. Konate's only just come back. You know, there are question marks about the defences rather than the offences here. What are your thoughts on this one? Just a lean for you, but you're swinging a little bit with this one.
Yeah, it's obviously the last game of this week as far as chronologically is concerned, isn't it? So I know we're talking about it first, but this is the last one because it's the highlight game of the weekend without any shadow of a doubt. And I agree. I think this could be a bit wild because of what you've now talked about there. I think both have got excellent attacks. We've seen strikers in form. Semenyo's come in, hit the ground running for City. That'd be an interesting battle against his former teammate, of course, likely out there on that City right-hand side, Liverpool's left-hand side. So that could be a feisty little clash, a little subplot as well. And yeah, I think we're seeing defences that throw up chances and lose concentration quite easily. And against this kind of razor-sharp strikers and forward players we've got in both sides here, that could lead to a bit of a wild encounter. We haven't mentioned in too much detail Haaland. Never scored at Anfield for City, which is an interesting one. But he's plus money. He's plus money to score here, which we know doesn't come around too often. So anyone fancies a swing there, and you'd expect, there's not many runs that will last too long in a negative trend for Haaland, is there? So will this be the occasion? As Nigel said, he was rested tonight, so he could will start in this one. But I've gone for something which is a bit of a trend in recent weeks because it's the last game and it is only a lean. It's plus 1,500 for Manchester City to be winning at half time and Liverpool to turn it around and win at full time. City have dropped 11 points from half time leads in the Premier League this season, and only West Ham have dropped more from those situations. They've dropped 13, and we know how well they're doing this season. So that game against Spurs was a poster campaign for what we've seen from City. Dominant in the first half, probably should have been more goals ahead than they were, fell asleep in the second half, and even Spurs, in their current state, punished them. So we know Liverpool can do that at Anfield especially. So go, as you say, swinging for the benches there with that one, but it's only a lean.
Only a lean, plus 1,500. We were just talking before we came off air. City don't score too many goals in the last 15 minutes. That could buy into that as well. Just 6. Only Wolves and Forest have scored fewer. Liverpool, incidentally, minus 112 for a top 4 finish. As Nigel rightly points out, it is a real scramble to make sure of Champions League places next season. Let's get to Man United Spurs here. Another game that's going to attract an awful lot of wages here because it's the early one on Saturday in England. It's 7:30 Eastern in the morning. Plenty of United and Spurs fans getting up early in the morning stateside for this one, I'm sure. United minus 157. Spurs plus 380. The tie plus 330 here. Nigel, 3 wins from 3 under Carrick. But, I've been saying this for the last couple of years. I mean, when they're big-ish minus money, can we trust them? What do you think?
I still wouldn't bet them minus 157.
I'm with you.
I still wouldn't mess with them. I mean, they've won 3 on the bounce under the new manager, 8 goals scored. They've got a swagger about them. Kuna come back at a good performance, and Boomer's been brilliant since he came back. Fernandes as well. There's a lot to like about Manchester United at this moment in time. There's a feel-good factor around Old Trafford, but we've seen this movie script many times before. But in their positive is who the team they're playing. They're playing a side in Tottenham. That the same can be said for them. What we can say for Manchester United, they have 2 wins. We think they're back to showing some form. But they're not. Manchester United, unlike Tottenham, have got a lot of their players coming back now. So they've got a good squad to choose from. They've had a lot of injuries and concerns and defensive problems. But now they're back with virtually a decent, their first string squad. Whereas Tottenham still have key players out.
Massive.
But their main man, Solanke, came back at the weekend. He was a lean here on the show. We gave him last week. He scored 2 goals. I think if Tottenham are going to score, which I expect them to score at Manchester United, Old Trafford, Solanke has got to be the man. I mean, he's an out-and-out centre-forward, and you're getting him at $2 to score here in a game where I expect to see goals. Both teams to score, yes, it's minus 181. So it shows you what kind of game we expect. We saw Manchester United come in that crazy game against Fulham the last 5 minutes there, 3-2 against Arsenal. I mean, Man United under Amorim wouldn't have won that game against Fulham. They're more likely to have lost the game 3-2. But they are winning. They are getting a bit of luck. They are got players back. They are creating goals. They do look solid, and they look a much more attacking threat under Carrick with the tactical changes he's made. Man United and both teams to score. Yes, interested in me. That's plus 160. The goal line is 3.5 though, and I think it's a little bit too high. I'm not totally convinced by the goals at the moment, but I do think both teams will score. And if both teams will score is minus 185, Solanke at $2 is a bet for me. And if you can get any price on Solanke to make the England World Cup squad, I'd have a bet on that, you know.
Yeah, he's 5 behind Richarlison, the top team goal scorer at the minute for Spurs. We've dug out the tickets from the back of the wardrobe. You never know, we might be able to cash those come May. Jack, you've got an official play in this one. I mean, Nigel mentioned Spurs' injury issues. I mean, it was Paulinho, wasn't he, played in a back three last week? I think Gray played right wing back. I mean, Dragusin, who I thought left the club, and Basuma likewise started. I think Basuma started the last two, but Dragusin coming in. Really didn't think he was still there, but Thomas Frank got a tune out of him. Second half, as you mentioned previously, against Manchester City. What are we going for here? You got an official play here, got a big one.
Yeah, I've got 1.5 units on it because it's a tough week for me this week. Looking at it, I think across these fixtures, there's a lot of up in the air, and this one is kind of one that stood out that I'm prepared to say put some chips into the middle of the table for it. It's over 3 Asian total, so Nigel mentioned the over 3.5 goal line there. I've nipped it down a little bit to 3, which means we'll get a push if there's exactly 3. 4 or more obviously gets us the full win. It's minus 115, so I thought that was able to be dialed down a little bit to give us that safety net of 3 goals. And yeah, it's been a perfect start for Manchester United under Carrick, hasn't it? And what they've been screaming for is entertainment. They've got that, and they've got 3 wins, so it's perfect for them. They've certainly been flexing their attacking muscle. We've seen it. Cunha has been on the bench. He started, and Sesko's on the bench. And you know, when a manager's kind of getting a tune out of the squad is when those players come into the side and either score when they start or come off the bench and score. And they're doing that. And he's getting Bruno Fernandes in those positions there where he's the best at. Spurs play quite narrow, quite tight. Runners from midfield will be the way to break them here. And I think Bruno is certainly a player that will thrive in that respect. 8 goals, as we said, they've scored Man United in those 3 games. Bruno's been involved, either assist or scored in 4 of those goals. So it shows you how he's having a field day there. And as much as Spurs, they were woeful in that first half, but then they came alive in the second half. So that pretty much sums up Spurs. We're not quite sure what we're going to get. But like I said about the City game a moment ago, I think this could well be a wild encounter. Man United a foot to the floor, full on the gas, looking to score goals. But I said against the Spurs side, who are better on the road. 5 of their 7 wins this season have come on the road in the league. They do perform better against tougher opponents. We've seen them perform well in the Champions League. And this would come into that respect. And they're better when other sides have the ball. You can say the same about Man United. So who's going to kind of break here? I think Man United will push forward in their new style, and that could suit Spurs. We'll say that phrase again. It's stylistically, it could well suit Spurs. So they're also unbeaten in 8 versus Man United. You've got to go back to 2022 since they got defeated there. And this was 2-2 with plenty of late goals again in the reverse fixture. So both teams' scores landed in 6 of the last 7 United games. 3 wins, 1 push and 1 defeat for this particular bet. And both teams' scores landed in 5 of the last 7 as well at home. And in the last 6 domestic games for Spurs, this bet's cashed in 3 with 2 pushes on this particular bet. So I'm going with over 3 Asian total at minus 115, 1.5 units.
Just want to bring you back to the Friday night game. Leeds Forest, 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock local. Leeds plus 123 here, Nigel. Forest plus 240. This is 16th versus 17th. They're 6 points above the relegation zone, the pair. I don't know, would a draw suit here? You've got a unit on this one. I tend to think they'll both look at it and think if we can win it, we're going to give a real buffer between ourselves and the bottom 3. But a draw might suit, don't I?
I think both managers would be happy for a draw, but I'm not saying that it's going to be played out as a draw. I just think the market is very strong on Leeds here. We say they're so hard to beat at home, and you know they
were poor last week.
They were really poor last week, but they haven't got a brilliant home record. I mean, they've only won 5 of their 12 home matches. And Nottingham Forest have got the same away record as Liverpool in the Premier League. You know, virtually identical to Liverpool. So I think Nottingham Forest here are a little bit of value at plus 240. I was thinking about putting them in as a as a half a unit play. I'm not going to do it, but I think I'm going to go with them on the draw no bet, plus 128, because I think out of the two of them, I think Forest will be bet here. I think plus 240 is a price that's going to be contract. If you look at their record, I mean, they drew 1-1 with Crystal Palace at the weekend, but that they would have won that if they didn't have that Nico Williams sent off just before the half time. They went to Brentford and won 2-0 in the Premier League. They drew with Arsenal at home. They went to West Ham and won. That's their last 4 matches. And Leeds is going through a little bit of a slump at the moment. They've only won 3 in their last 11, and the most, a lot of draws in that period. But the most concerning thing for Leeds fans is that Calvert-Lewin hasn't scored in a few weeks now. And obviously, if he doesn't score, I don't really know where the goals are going to come from. I like what I see from Forest. I think Morgan Gibbs-White was excellent last week, in the first half in particular, when they bossed Palace and should have been 2 up. And if you look at talking about transfer windows, they've actually done some good business in the transfer window. I think Stefan Ortegi, the Man City goalkeeper's coming. He was the best reserve goalkeeper. The Toulouse Sells was a big blow for him, but they've replaced him with a very good player. I know Nico Williams is suspended for this match, but some of the players...
He'd have been all right in goal, actually, wouldn't he?
Yeah. But I think some of the players that they brought in are good, and I think Forest could be on a little bit of a turnaround here. They're the informed side. Leeds, I know they got beat by it was Arsenal last time out, but the performance was terrible. I worry about the goals, and I just think the price discrepancy between the two of them is factored into this brilliant Leeds home record. I know it's a Friday night under the lights, but I'm not convinced by Leeds being a plus 123 chance here. I think Forest have got a brilliant chance of escaping not escaping a defeat here. So draw no bet, Nottingham Forest plus 128 would be tempting as well to bet them on the money line at plus 240 for a smaller stake.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if Nets comes straight in. Borussia Mönchengladbach left back for Williams, as you mentioned, Lorenzo Luca signed as well. Jack, what do we think here? Leeds, Forest. I am torn here. Just off the real recency bias, but I just thought Leeds were awful against Arsenal. I know it was Arsenal, but they offered no threat. I think they'd take a draw. I'd be erring on Nigel's play here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a really tough one to call. But it is a massive game at the bottom of the table. And I think the key thing here, or the interesting thing here, is both these sides are 6 points clear of West Ham. So a tie would actually take them 7 points clear, which is then a 3-game swing. So I don't think either would be massively disappointed about it. Sean Dyche, I think, would certainly go, we'll go to Ellen Road, we'll take a point and we'll move on. Maybe a bit more for Daniel Farker and Leeds, that home advantage against a relegation rival. You'd want to be looking to pick 3 points up, but avoid defeat, certainly, given that they are just ahead of them at the moment in the table. So I think so, yeah. I think Dyche will go there, look to try and take the sting out of the crowd. The one thing about the Leeds crowd is phenomenal. They'll really get behind their team, but they can also get a little bit edgy. Once things aren't quite going right, then it becomes a little bit of a negative. And I think that's what Sean Dyche will play on. Obviously, experienced manager will go there, look to take the sting out initially, get a foothold in the game, and then see what he can do. So my lean here is a half-time tie, plus 117, a bit of a slow burner. The other element of that is that it was 1-1 at half-time in the reverse fixture, but Leeds been level at the break in 7 of their 12 home games this season, which is the most in the Premier League. And Forest, 3 of their last 5 have been level at the break. So I'm going with that as my lean at plus money.
Now then, tennis, soccer, basketball, whatever your sport you're following right now, bet on it with a February fun bet. Betting Weekly and BetRivers have teamed up to give you a $10 bonus bet at BetRivers when you enter the bonus code BW201. That code is BW201. Offer expires Feb 15th. Must be 21. Eligible players only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Let's get to the champions-elect. Arsenal against Sunderland. 10 a.m. Saturday. Minus 500 to beat the Black Cats here, who are $14. Look, Arsenal minus 625 for the title. They're 6 points clear. Not quite sure what to make of their League Cup semi-final. Second leg success, Nigel, over Chelsea. Bit of a strange game. Chelsea offered little. We'll get to them later in the show. Are we back to Arsenal to nil, though, maybe here? Consecutive clean sheets for the first time since November. Are we playing Arsenal? If so, how? They're very, very short to win this one.
Well, this is a very, very short price. As you say, they're minus $5 on the money line. And when you see Arsenal against a team like Sunderland, the first thing you bring your eyes to try to get a little bit of a juice on your price is to go to the win to nil market. But you have to get a price that you think is potential value. And I was hoping that we'd be about minus 110, something like that, Arsenal. And if it was minus 110, it would be an obvious play and it would be one of my official plays. But it's not. It's minus 132. And I think that's a little bit too short. We know Arsenal have got the best home defence in the Premier League. They've got the best defence in the Premier League. And we know how low scoring Sunderland are. They're the second lowest road scorers behind Wolves in the Premier League. They were brilliant against Burnley, but really it was more Burnley being absolutely dreadful on the Monday Night Football last week. But coming to Arsenal was a match that I can't see even the biggest of Sunderland fans. But on the flip side to that, they did have a go at Chelsea. They came here in Chelsea, they had a right go at Chelsea, hit them on their counter-attack. But I think here they will probably pay Arsenal too much respect, and Arsenal should have enough for them. But minus 132 comes with traps, and it's not a price for me. Again, looking the way to get with it, the goal line, despite being a minus $5 favourite, is 2.5 goal line. You know, when you traditionally have a team at minus $5, you would think the goal line would be 3.5. It's not. It's 2.5. It's heavily loaded on the under, but it's still 2.5. That means when you look at 1-0, 2-0 Arsenal, which is where I can see this kind of match going, it's low. It's plus 520, plus 425. So you've got to go for the props. You've got to go down, look at Arsenal players who've got a potential to score, look at Arsenal players who an assist. But without knowing the team news, it's very, very difficult to say that. But one thing I will say is Gyökeres is a flat track bully. When he's at home, at the Emirates, against these kind of sides, newly promoted sides, he shows up. When he's away in big games, he goes missing. So I would expect Gyökeres to get on the score sheet here. You're not going to get rich, but if you do the same game parlay, Arsenal to win and Gyökeres anytime, it is actually plus 125. But saying not going to reach, Gyökeres is plus 108, which when you think about it, if he leads the line, Havertz might lead the line. But if he does play and he's on pens, to get plus 108 about the centre forward for the champions when you're minus $5 is unheard of. If it was Mr. Haaland or if it's Salah, it'd be minus 350.
Top goal scorer for Arsenal this season with 11. What more do people want?
All in sort of lower games at home, though, isn't it, Dan? You look at the goals.
More or less, yeah. No, there's a few penalties in there. Look, I think he's got 4 in his last 7. Scored against Inter away. Scored against Cairo at home. You know, one side of the coin and the other. Sunderland are without Granit Xhaka. Most likely, Jack, it would have been interesting to see him back at Emirates. He's probably going to be there anyway. There were big drifters at home to Burnley, which I thought was interesting on Monday night, but they still won easy. But we know away form Sunderland, home form Sunderland, I mean, they're almost two different teams, aren't they, here? Nigel suggested maybe look to the props. You've got a player to look out for us.
Yeah, I was tossing a coin here between Gyökeres or Madueke, and I've gone with Madueke in the end. And, you know, again, Nigel said something about, like, we're calling the Palace slump early doors. One other thing, we say we've not got much right hands up in the air to say that this season, but we did say that Gyökeres was the guy to look out for as a flat track bully, and that's proved to be the case. He's scoring his goals, he's sort of stat padding a little bit, but it's against those lesser lights. And I looked at it, and yeah, he was plus money, and I thought, well, that is a temptation. But I think definitely it's a case of look at the team news here, because Jesus started, didn't he, in his it was at the last home game, and Gyökeres started in the midweek, so, and we've obviously had Havertz there as well. But gone with Madueke, who made the most of that Saka injury in the warm-up against Leeds last weekend. Got a goal and an assist. Obviously got the goal as it come from the corner, but that was an element in itself. You're going, right, Madueke's on corners. Anyone who's on corner duty for Arsenal, your eyes light up a little bit and go, oh, we've got an opportunity here. We know how much of a threat they are from set pieces. So the fact that Madueke to score or assist was plus 125, that's what swayed it in the end, getting the double-edged sword on there with the assist as well. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see him lay one on the plate for Gyökeres, and for him to tap one in from the 6-yard box. We'll have to see on that. But yeah, I think that he'll offer something out there, assuming that Saka will not quite be ready for this one. But I say team news will be very interested. Whoever's in there, have a little look. And I think that'd be where I'd go as far as the props market's concerned. Once that team news comes out about, say, an hour and a quarter after and before kickoff. So yeah, that's the route in.
Lean there for the boys. Bournemouth, Aston Villa next. This is Saturday, 10 a.m. Bournemouth plus 175, Villa plus 143. Almost pick 'em. Seen a little bit of reversion to the mean, Jack, with Villa, aren't we? They lost to Everton and Brentford recently, even though they had more XG in both of those games. Did win 3 on the spin between the two. I really like Bournemouth here. It's one of my bets this weekend. Draw no bet round about even money. You're sort of on the Bournemouth train, aren't you? Ish.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. As far as them scoring goals is concerned, and I think Villa struggled. Obviously, they had the heart ripped out of that side, haven't they, with the midfield, and that's still an issue. They brought players in, admittedly, but it's still not quite the same as what they had And to have lost a couple at home, then they've gone to Newcastle, which we know is a really tough place to go and pick up points, and they've gone and done that. So it's a tough one to call on what Villa are going to get. Are they going to now be suited away from home against the Bournemouth side? We know how they play. My lean here is over 1.5 Bournemouth goals at +116. They've just been scoring phenomenally well. We were waiting for that little dip after the Semenyo exit. It's not been there. Scored 15 goals in the last 7 games in all competitions, 2 or more goals in 6 of those games. And you look at the played Liverpool, Newcastle, Arsenal, Chelsea in those games as well. Throw in Spurs as well if you really want to. But they've scored 8 of those goals since Semenyo's gone. That was the key element for me. And I think, you look at Villa in the middle of the park, an energy from Bournemouth. We know what you're going to get from them at home. So their games tend to be open and full of goals. Couldn't really side with a win. But I do fancy Bournemouth to net a couple of goals here over 1.5 at +116. Thought plus money was nice.
Yeah, I think I really like that bet. I thought what was interesting, Nigel. I mean, Tammy Abraham and Douglas Luiz both come back to the club. Tammy had a brief spell, didn't he, a good few years ago. Douglas Luiz more recently. Straight back into the side. I mean, I know they're a little bit short, but that might have just upset the balance a little bit. Watkins didn't play, probably going to play for this one. Just not sure about Villa for me at the minute. What you got for us?
No, they're not. I mean, I think that the home form being beaten in the last 2 matches has sort of shattered them, really. When you think about the 2 teams they've got beaten by, I mean, Brentford and Everton, without scoring, and a 10-man at Brentford as well. That was a little bit of a reality check for Aston Villa. But the thing is, whenever you've written them off, Aston Villa, they've come back good. If you look at their losing runs, when they lose a match, they usually come back. They go on a couple of good winning runs. When they lost to Everton, they went on a 3-match winning run. I know 2 of them were in Europe, and the other one was the win at Newcastle as well. So I wouldn't write them off just yet, but to lose that midfield, Tielemans, Majin, and obviously Watkins. I mean, however much Tammy Abraham come in, he did look off the pace slightly. I mean, he got in some good positions, but he didn't look like Ollie Watkins. He didn't look like a man who's going to score you 20-plus goals in the Premier League. So where do we go here? I think the angle definitely is goals. I mean, Bournemouth at home just score loads and loads of goals. And wherever they go, they score goals. And if you look at the 2 teams on the transfer business, this in the transfer window, on the closing window there, I think it's Bournemouth who've done better. I mean, some of the players they've got in from overseas, Lazio, Ferencvaros, these kind of players, they're okay. I mean, I think Aston Villa, for a team that are going for top 4, I think I'd be disappointed if I look at that transfer window. For them to bring in Tammy Abraham and Douglas Luiz, they never really, they weren't really superstars when they left Aston Villa. I think I'd want something a little bit better than that if I was going for a top 4 finish and going for the top 2 in Europe as well. So the squad is thin. They're running on empty a little bit, I think, as well. And the players that they have at their disposal at the moment aren't as good as, obviously, clearly, the gap between the ones who aren't there and the ones who are playing at the moment is a big gap. So I think that leads to goals. I like it at a big price. I like the old Desmond there, the old 2-2. If we're going to go for a bet, I fancy goals. And if I was going to go up, I'd go over 3.5 or over 3 rather than the 2.5, which is +170 over 3.5. Fancy goals. Wouldn't like to say where it would go, so I'm going to sit on the fence and go for the old Desmond 2-2. Fancy goals.
Another 10 a.m. game is Burnley-West Ham. Burnley +250, West Ham +1 away. West Ham short, but I think deserve to be here, Jack. You've got a 1-unit play on this one. I mean, again, West Ham have been fairly busy in the transfer market. Hammers fans probably would have been preferred just to been beat at Stamford Bridge last time out rather than go 2 up and then get beat. That was a killer against Chelsea here. But I thought they bought all right here. And Burnley were just awful against Sunderland on Monday night. What's the you?
Yeah, I'm going with the main man for West Ham, Jared Bowen, to score or assist again at +112. And I think the fact we're getting, again, double edge there, it had to be an official play for me. And I thought in that first half, West Ham were so good against Chelsea. Yes, Chelsea had rotated a bit, but West Ham took advantage of that. And they really thrived on the counter-attack. That was proper Nuno ball. We talked about it when he went there, saying that he likes to have those wide players with pace. They like to have that focal point down the middle. They've got that now, and they've got the fact they can put Bowen out into his favourite position, out on that right-hand side. And he got his goal from the fact that he was actually looking for picking out a cross, wasn't he? But that's dangerous. He aimed for that far post, whipped it in, didn't get a touch, but the keeper's got to be wary, and it's snuck in. So the fact they've got someone down the middle now, mobile, tall, aggressive, to aim for and play off of, that works really well. And it was a toss-up for me between Somerville and Bowen. Somerville's been excellent. His scoring record actually is better than Bowen's at this moment over the last, say, 4 games, where he scored in every single one of them. I just think he's going to be up against Kyle Walker, a bit of experience, well, a lot of experience there, and he's still got that pace. And I think that might just nullify him a little bit. And I like Bowen for the fact of what he's always brought to West Ham. And also the fact with Paquetá going is likely to mean, in fact, it's 99% certain that he'll then go on to penalties as well. So I think that adds more to it. So we've got his assists, we've got his goals, and so we've got the fact that Burnley just throw up so many chances. They're terrible down that particular side of the pitch as well, allowing lots. They've conceded the second most goals in the league with 47. They've got the worst expected goals as well. They concede the most in the shots in the box, and they concede the second most amount of headed attempts. So it all leads towards West Ham's main man out there having a bit of a field day, being prepared to put the ball in the box when necessary for the talisman, or the target man, in the middle, but also the ability to score goals as well. So 8 goals, 2 assists this season. 2 goals and assists in his last 2. I think you can add to that here against this awful Burnley side. They really were shocking against Sunderland. So I'm going to take him to score or assist at plus 112.
That is an official unit play. Nigel's just got a lean for us here. 240 games into the Premier League season. Burnley, by my reckoning, had the lowest XG of 0.06 in a single game against Sunderland. They were absolutely shocking. They've had their mini run. I expect a bit of a losing run. I'm going to bet West Ham.
When was that? When was the mini run?
Well, they I think they were unbeaten in 3, were they? They're unbeaten in 3 at home. They were unbeaten in 4 in all comps, and then
they've only won 1 in 15. So that 3 must have.
Well, that was a Millwall game. I mean, nearly every.
Well, they went to Man United. They played Man United. Played Liverpool, didn't they? They got draws. I mean,
yeah, they were all right.
They are the worst team in the Premier League. I think, even though Wolves are in that position at the moment, and when you look at their performance at the last week, you think how can they win another game? But the trouble is, football's a funny thing that when they work on that, they seem to change it around. I think the difference that Scott Parker's been bet very heavily to be the next Premier League manager to lose his job today over the last couple of days on the back of that performance. And I suppose for him, the one team that he would want to face would be West Ham, given his connections at the club, and he was a heroic figure as a captain there. But, we look at West Ham and saying, okay, we've got to oppose Burnley at all costs. But you're talking about prices. West Ham are plus 108 to win this match. I mean, would you bet West Ham at plus 108 on the road in the Premier League match? I'm not quite sure I would. I've been very impressed again with the players that they brought in on the transfer window. I think they've done well. I think Traore's a brilliant signing. And I think that, there is an upwards step to West Ham's form at this moment in time. But the bet that's been cashing all the time in West Ham matches is over the goals. Over 2.5. 9 of the last 10 matches over 2.5 goals. And, Burnley are capable of getting a few goals. It's the one thing that they do, usually on the road, but they're capable of getting involved in a high-scoring game. And I was quite surprised, actually, that the 2.5 goal here was one of the lowest quotes of the weekend. It's over 2.5 goals. It's minus 110. So I'm quite surprised by that. I fancy goals. If you're looking for a bet that's been cashing in West Ham matches, it has been that over 2.5 goals. So a couple of Bowen goals, a couple of Burnley goals as well will be doing us. Over 2.5 goals, minus 110 would be my lean here.
It's still no clean sheet for Nuno, is it, at West Ham? So, that's... I
don't know. Yeah, I mean, West Ham are the most profitable over 2.5 team in the league. It's as simple as that. It's a strange one. Let's get to Brighton Crystal Palace. This is a Sunday game, 9 a.m. It's first up on Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern. It is the M23 derby. Brighton are minus money favourites. Palace, Nigel have bought Strand Larsen, Gessan on loan. They've got, 4 of the back 5 are playing now that started earlier this season. Gay's gone, but the rest are in. Wharton's back from suspension for Palace here. Are we stopping fade? Are we getting back on the Palace train? Are we stopping fading them?
Not just yet. I mean, I think Strand Larsen is a signing that everybody's sort of scratching their head at the moment, thinking, how's this guy gone for 48 million? I think it's a panic.
It's the money, yeah.
I think it's a panic signing for them. They thought Mateta was going to go and they needed to get a replacement, and he was there, and then the Mateta deal fell through, and they think, well, what do we do now? That's why Dwight O'Neill didn't go, because obviously they didn't have the money for him, because the Mateta deal didn't go through. But a lot of Palace fans are delighted that deal never came through. I think the signings they've made, they've broken their transfer record twice, but the signings of Brennan Johnson and Strand Larsen are for the money they've paid, I think they're going to backfire. In this particular match, though, Brighton are in a slump. Brighton are on an absolute slump. Only 2 wins in 11, I think it is. Palace no wins in 12. Both of these teams are struggling, absolutely struggling. Would I be betting Brighton at -104 in this match? No, I wouldn't, because Palace do look a little bit stronger defensively. Wharton coming back, as you said, is a massive positive. And now they've got these new faces who want to come in and impress. Usually when a new signing comes in, they don't do too bad at the beginning, and then after 6 or 7 games, you realise that you've done your money. But I think this is, I think goals here. Or it's a funny one, really, because Brighton are good for a goal at home. They've scored in 11 of the 12 home matches this season. Crystal Palace are usually pretty good for a goal on the road. So I would be looking at goals. But I think the better way to play it would be both teams to score, yes. Because that could be a 1-1 draw. I can see this being a draw, actually. I can see this being a draw. Steady the ship for both sides. But not at -104. If Brighton were +104, I might probably bet them as an official play. But at -104, I think that's a little bit too short for a struggling Brighton team.
Yeah, I'll be fading Brighton. With the usual, they're going to have more of the ball, so they're not going to win. Reverse fixture is 0-0, 9 out of the last 11. Both teams to score, yes, which buys into what Nigel was saying. Jack, what do you like?
Yeah, it's been 1-1 heavy, hasn't it, in the reverse fixture when Palace are at home, and it tends to be more goal heavy in this one. But I've just gone for 2 sides out of form, struggling and scratching around in what is quite a feisty game. So I think, again, it might well be a case that they'll end up cancelling each other out, and it could well be a tie. As you said, 0-0 in the reverse, under in the last 5 Brighton home games, 3 of the last 5 Palace games. So I actually went under 2.5 goals as my lean here at -103. But not much else to add on that. It's a tough one to call, and prices seem about right. But yeah, that's where I've kind of, my eyes got led towards.
Let's get to the Wolves-Chelsea game, which is a Saturday 10 a.m. fixture. Wolves are +400 here. Chelsea -152. Nigel, I mean, Rossini got it wrong, didn't he, against Arsenal? I know he got some plaudits for it, but it was almost like he was playing for a draw when Chelsea needed to win, and they ultimately lost. I really didn't understand it. Arsenal weren't great, but didn't need to be. I don't know what your take about that game was briefly, and is just Rossini overthinking a little bit? I'm going nowhere near Chelsea at -152.
I don't know whether he's trying to be clever for clever's sake, trying to do something different. When he was like telling the Arsenal players to get in their own half before the game. You go to any Premier League game and players always go into their own what they're warming. I don't understand what he's getting at. But I think the nuts and bolts of it, you're 1-0 down against one of your arch rivals in a semi-final of a place at Wembley with a silverware at stake. You can't play 5 at the back, and you can't go there and try to, you've got to go and win. And he had the players on the bench to change it around earlier. Palmer, Estevao, he had absolute world-class players who he could have done well. I've been applauded of his since he's done here. They were very attack-minded, lots of goal scoring. But that will be something that he'll probably learn from in his young career and think, hang on a minute, I should have probably done something different. He would have read all the newspaper articles again, and he'd probably be something different in this Wolves match. He's up against the worst team in the Premier League. Well, not the worst team, with Burnley the worst team, but the team at the bottom of the Premier League. And what does he do here? I think that he won't really change too much. I think they're solid defensively. I just think Wolves, I thought they had that resurgence, and I thought they may not finish bottom of the table, and I've gone with them a couple of times in their recent matches, but the last time they played out against Bournemouth was the final straw for me at home, losing 2-0. They haven't had the rub of the green, I must admit. They've had a lot of opportunities to score, haven't put the ball away. Their statistics are pretty good, but I think Chelsea will be able to cope with them. -152 on the money line, Chelsea. I wouldn't be betting that, but I think, we were looking at teams to win to nil when we started off. We spoke about the Arsenal match. Well, the Arsenal to win to nil is -132. Chelsea to win to nil here is +190. I think that would be the way I would go. 1-0, 2-0 Chelsea. Do what he has to do. I think they'll know that they can contain this Wolves side. This is a Wolves side that struggled at home to score goals. Didn't score against Bournemouth. Didn't offer really much from an attacking point of view. They had a goal disallowed right at the beginning that changed the way they feel. But, they failed to score against Bournemouth. They failed to score against Brentford. They failed to score against Forest. They failed to score against Crystal Palace. I think they failed to score against Chelsea as well. So Chelsea to win to nil +190 is a nice price.
Nice little lean, that one. Not quite sure what you make of the signings that Wolves made. Jack Adam Armstrong just looks like he's there to get them back up from the Championship next season. Angel Gomez, no idea, on loan from Marseille, sort of started 12 games in Liga this season. England international 18 months ago. Could be good. Just don't know. What's your thoughts on Wolves Chelsea?
Yeah, well, I think those pieces of business, you've nailed it there. Armstrong is certainly one for next season. Get him in the squad, and then use him in the Championship when they go down. A very good player and a goal scorer at that level, but not at this level. And Gomez, was a bit of a strange one. Shop window, or putting himself under Thomas Tuchel's nose, maybe, just to see if he can force his way back in there. But he could well be a shining light in amongst not a lot of good players, really, to be fair, couldn't he? Let's not get away from the fact that Wolves have shown some signs of improvement, but that was a very low bar that they've had to try and raise, and they've done it to a certain degree. I make that Chelsea price probably about right, given what they've got, given how good they are, and other than that, the bookended games against Arsenal, they've won everything in between it. So fair play on that respect. Can't bet him at that price. The win to nil was certainly one that I looked at, and I think, it's just that Chelsea defence just seem a habit of throwing a goal in. So in the end, I threw under 4.5 goals into a same game parlay to make it -122 to make that Chelsea price a bit more palatable, because the one thing that Edwards has improved at Wolves is their concession of goals. It's only that 4-1 collapse against Manchester United in December, which has seen this one go over. They've still lost 9 of 13 under him, including the last 2. They've not scored in the last 3. And so they haven't been thrashed since that Man United collapse. So only one game has gone over that. They're averaging 2.15 goals per game. So that includes 2-0 defeat to City, a 0-0 with Newcastle, 1-1 Man United, 2-1 at Liverpool, 2-1 Arsenal, and 1-0 Villa. So they've kept it tight, but normally get beat. And I think that's what will happen here.
Newcastle Brentford next. If we thought that Rossini got it wrong, well, Eddie Howe certainly did in the other League Cup semi-final. Well, the results suggest. I mean, the argument, I guess, here, Jack, is that, well, if Rossini had done what Eddie Howe did, then Chelsea could have been blown out of the water in the first half an hour. I don't know. But look, he played a back three with City. I know Newcastle have got injury issues. They're even money to beat Brentford. This is a 12:30 p.m. Saturday game, Eastern. Incidentally, they'll want to bounce back, but given that the League Cup's been their sort of tournaments with the win and the runner-up over the last few years or so, not quite sure what to make of this one. I sort of water again with Brentford a little bit, but they have got a pretty poor away record. What do you think?
They have. Well, both myself and Nigel have mentioned this during our shows, haven't we? That last season Brentford were red hot at home, 1-1, and were terrible away. Then they had a little slump at home and started to click on the road. And we've sort of seen that here. They lost a couple at home now, and then they had that very good win at Villa with 10 men. Newcastle are traditionally very strong at home. I don't like to oppose them. This is a real tough one to call, because I just think Newcastle are running on fumes with that midweek game in there as well, and a thrashing, and an injury to Anthony Gordon, hamstring. That's put him out for a few weeks. There's another one. That midfield is crucial for them. No Guimaraes tonight. No Joe Linton. Tonali is, running on empty a little bit, and the replacements aren't anywhere near as good or as the same dynamic as what they're trying to replace. So I have gone Brentford here. I don't know what the price is now, Dan, if you've got eyes on that, but it was -109 plus half a goal handicap before we come on air. But I'd imagine that price will change given that result tonight and the injury to Gordon as well. So that's where I've lent. I just think Brentford are energetic. They're dynamic. They've got players that can hurt Newcastle because they are tired and low on numbers. So I've gone with a plus. Basically, they avoid defeat, and we cashed the ticket in full. I say it was -109 during that game tonight. So that's what I've gone for.
-124.
Right.
Newcastle have drifted a little bit off the back of that defeat and injury news. Nigel, thoughts on this one? Newcastle going to drift further? I mean, it could depend on team news, whether you get your money down now or you wait till kick-off. Brentford have only the bottom 2 have lost more than Brentford away from home. I mean, they're not great on their travels, but the state of the situation, as Jack's pointed out, might make them a bet here.
Yeah, and we always said that Newcastle scored more than 2 goals in all their matches at home, and then they failed to score against Aston Villa in a 2-0 defeat. And then, they've been pretty poor. The 4-1 defeat is Liverpool on the road tonight. They offered a goal scoring threat, but defensively they look weak. And I think it's all about the captain, Bruno Guimaraes. If he plays, then they're a different side. And I think if you're going to bet Newcastle at even money now with Bet Rivers, if Bruno Guimaraes plays, you'll be on a minus money pick. If you don't play, they'll go out to plus 110. That's maybe even bigger, plus 115. They've never won a Premier League game when he hasn't started, Bruno Guimaraes, which is incredible. So obviously got Wissa against his former club, which is from him from a personal point of view, but also it lifts Brentford. They want to beat their old boy. Shada's suspended, which is a blow for Brentford as well, one of their best players this season. But Newcastle have got Shah, Livramento, Bruno, all of those players as well as now Gordon. It's a big problem for them, and their season is petering out in front of your eyes. I mean, they're in mid-table obscurity. They're 11th in the table. They've got the FA Cup with Aston Villa, which is huge for them now, and then they've got Karabakh in the to knockout stage of the Champions League. But with all due respect, I don't think they're going to win the Champions League. So the FA Cup comes important to them now, and does he prioritise the cup competitions and the league? Because we've seen that happen with Manchester United and Tottenham last season. They were in a similar kind of place in Newcastle, and I think they probably will. But there's a part of me that just can't Brentford at plus 255. So however much I like that, I'm not so sure. I'd have to wait to team news before I had a bet. But at this moment in time, I think Newcastle are definitely worth fading. And I think they will prioritise that match against Aston Villa in the FA Cup.
Yeah, their schedule's interesting. Spurs away, which is midweek, then Villa in the FA Cup. It's going to be tough for them. Then Karabakh in the Champions League.
That's no gimme. That's no gimme the way they score goals. I mean,
look, the first leg's away from home. Did Karabakh draw with Chelsea at home, or was that
2-2?
I can't remember.
2-2, wasn't it?
So look, that's not going to be straightforward. Fulham Everton, last game we look at. This is another 10 a.m. Saturday game. Fulham plus 110, Everton plus 270. We have got an official play from Jack in this one. The ties plus 225. I thought Fulham were a little bit unlucky against United. They created 3.35 expected goals on target, the most of any team last weekend in the Premier League, but were beaten 3-2. Can they get the better of Everton here? Plus 110, tempting, but short. Dunno, Jack.
Yeah, I just gone down a goals route. I'm denied about making this official, but I thought, hey, why not? Let's go for it. So we've got a unit on here. Both teams to score minus 110. 9th versus 10th in the table. Both on 34 points. 5 points outside the top 6. Are they going to do anything this season, or are they going to say swim around in that middle table? It's fairly tightly packed, but I think both sides will need to go for a win. Fulham have been pretty strong at home this season. 7 wins at Craven Cottage. Only the top 3 have won more games on home soil than them. They've scored in 14 of their 15 home games, though. That's the main thing across all competitions this season. Both teams to score yes in 6 of the last 7. And Everton are proven to be a better side on the road than they are in their new stadium, as we said last week. And they managed to get that just over the line, didn't they? Again, 1-1 tie against Brighton at Brighton. That's their 4th in their last 5. So both teams to score yes has now landed in 5 of the last 6. They brought in Tyreek George, haven't they, from Chelsea, which will add a bit more kind of attack and thrust, dynamism, bit of pace up front as well. We're interested to see how he does. He'll have to prove to David Moyes that he can work back the other way as well, of course. And this was 3-1 to Everton last season. So I'm going both teams to score yes in this one at minus 110.
Dewsbury Hall back for Everton. Branthwaite played at left back. First start of the Premier League season last campaign. Thought he left as well, but I know he had a bad injury. Nigel, last word on the weekend. I think what
Jack's brilliant stats on Fulham there, 14 of 15 home matches, making a case for both teams to score yes, but he didn't give you any of the Everton stats, which are slightly different. 8 of their last 10 Everton road matches have seen both teams to score no, and the last 10 Everton road matches under 2.5 goals was cashed. 9 of 10 road matches under 2.5 goals was cashed, but 8 of 10 both teams scored no. It is a classic. One team, both teams to score yes and over 2.5 goals, and another team, both teams to score no and under 2.5 goals. The other thing you've got to throw into the mix is Marco Silva up against his former club, and he's got a very, very bad record against Everton since he's gone back. He got beat on the opening day of the season early in the season 2-0, and he has an awful record. So I hope Jack's right, but for me, I've said no bet. I think it's a very, very tough match to call.
Yeah, Everton, both teams to score no this season, plus 399 level stakes over the course of the season. Fulham, both teams to score yes, plus 247. Yin and yang, who's going to win out in that one? We hope it's Jack. Both teams to score yes. We like one unit play. Fulham against Everton, which is a Saturday 10 a.m. game. Nigel, Jack, thanks for your company. Good luck to one and all. That is a wrap for Betting Weekly Premier League Show Match Day 25. Let us know your thoughts. Get your picks in the comments section on YouTube. We are back on Monday for a midweek Premier League slate. Look forward to that from all of us. For now, though, it's goodbye.